Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a 3v3 for you guys today on Jungle Law, and it was one heck of a game. We're playing against Marsupial, Nachamp, and the Staffman, and I'm playing on the same team as Fierce and Santa. So we're going to be going, I'm headed up to Gregory, carrying a Baltic Moto opener, sort of a standard deal here, lots of Musties, XA180s, a couple of ROMs, a Salamandra, more things like that, and some recon that's going to be going up into the woods on this side. But first, I must just say, if you don't want to get stuck in the jungle, the best thing to do is to hit like, share, subscribe, and all that standard YouTuber nonsense I always have to ask for. That really does help out. So, my CV is headed toward Boris, and my goal was basically to infantry push if I could into Gregory, but then to also make sure that we don't get taken advantage of in the woods on this side, because frankly, it's a very powerful position for the Blue 4 team to hold. It's one that I've attacked many times with decent success, oftentimes really amazing success. If we lose this section of woods, then we lose control over this part of center, as well as a safe reinforcing zone into Gregory. So I basically think this section is crucial, and whoever goes to the mid has to deal with that section of woods. In the meantime, Santa's going to be playing on the right, and Fierce playing over in the left in Elena. And we had a little bit of rude gameplay that's going to be happening here as an Uragan is already called out by Fierce, and, well, it's not quite the opener, but it's still kind of the opener, and, well, maybe not the nicest thing to do ever. There's also a nice big motorized push coming up here from Marsupial Oslov PCs, carrying who knows what, and 3 Vickers Mark 11s, and that actually was really upsetting. I lost Eriko to those Vickers. They were a bit quicker than I was expecting, but we can still spot them. I have CC here, I have a Salamandra, I have a couple Spike teams, and maybe we'll be able to get revenge. In the meantime, it looks like that Nachamp is going to be fighting in Gregory, and that leaves the Staffman over fighting in Michael. So, over in Michael, we have Santa with Entente, by the looks of it, M84 ANs and T72 M2 Modernas, a nice big heavy contingent of recon tanks, and just that heavy punch with the 2A42 autocannon as well. And there's also Specialny Jednotki already up in the woods, claiming this side is pretty critical. The autogun has fired. Let's go ahead and see what effect that had. It looks like it forced a dismount here, maybe by killing the vehicles. I'm not entirely sure. It might have just been to avoid having all that damage hidden and a couple of things. And Brdskaya Pez have gotten up into the front part of Elena, but a nice flank here with Rover Wombats. Pretty good opener. I mean, recoilless rifle teams are pretty amazing, and I'd like to see this stuff a bit more spread out, so Specialny Jednotki and the Brdskaya Pez really moving through this forest, cutting off reinforcement lanes, and pressuring into the back part of Elena, because they're in a perfect position to advance that way, and they potentially could get a lot of good work done. In the meantime, I'm about to make a bit of a mistake here, so I have XA180s, I lose a KT to a Cobra, a couple of other vehicles destroyed, and then I'm just trying to see what's over here. Because, I don't know, there's not a lot of town over here. There are 2 vehicles, and I'm thinking, what are those? I can't really decide. Oh, goodness gracious. They're M728 CEVs. I have never lost CC quicker than maybe when I got hit by a prom, but I think that might be about it. So, in the meantime, VDV fighting in here, and they will grind through diggers pretty well. There's also some BTRDs and just a nice heavy hold. I'd like to see those moving around the woods on the left-hand side as well. And then T64BV up dangerously close, because yes, you're going to get some close-range shots in, but Rover Wombats have high rate of fire, and then any sort of high anti-tank infantry in these woods, or even just a little bit of smoke and then getting into these woods, will cut that off. However, it's high risk, high reward. If you can get that tank forward and cut off that sort of ramp up to the right, then there goes our opponent's reinforcing lane. So, Staffman over here fighting, bringing in a seed plane, and that is potentially going to be a problem as there is a Spat Foka on this side, but a lot of Entente anti-air can be infrared, so you can't really take that for granted. And yeah, I think the woods engagements have gone pretty well. Specialny Jednotki and Proletary 90 are a very, very deadly force, and it looks like they're not really actively fighting anymore. So if the Moderna can get forward, I'd like to see the M84ANs forward as well. Wow, I'm being very judgmental today, and I don't mean that to be the case, because these sort of big team games, I love playing them with people. It's chaotic, it's fun, you get to really play with people instead of just, you know, the classic traditional duel. A couple of F111Cs coming in, let's see what they hit. Ouch. Down go the Specialny Jednotki and those Proletary 90, that's a steep price to pay. But it does also require a huge investment from the Blue 4 player, so if we can kill those planes, that should be a nice thing. So, meanwhile, I had an MI8 TKT just trying to help out on the left side, and I'm actually going to be capping Elena for Fierce here. as we sort of decided as a team it was more important to really just be aggressive on this side and get as much of Elena as we can. In the meantime, a penalty, I don't really see those all that often, and it looks like we won't be seeing him again today because my spike team has taken care of that. This is a little overextended. I would have liked to have CC or Iroquois up forward, so I brought the Iroquois to begin with, but they were unfortunately not easy to replace, so I have more Iroquois coming up this way, and then I can't forget that, you know, the whole time this is going on, my opponent here in Gregory is probably planning something, and here it comes. 2 vehicles and the HA Abrams behind it, and I'm not sure what those vehicles are. They look like tanks, maybe, yep, HA Abrams. Okay, 2 HA Abrams, and I really don't have the punch up here to take those out. In hindsight, I would have liked to have a spike team here. It's a little close, so they will be direct fired when they shoot, and that's why I didn't at the time, but, I mean, that was pretty brutal. And with the Cobra back there a little bit out of range for me to really handle, I wasn't really sure how to deal with that. And the first success is probably going to mean that my opponent is going to try that again with more support. And not necessarily pull back that quick either, because he took a pound of flesh and he got out safe. That's sort of your ideal play, is getting something for nothing. In the meantime, Vickers Mark 11s are moving up around the side, and that is something to worry about. But Bird Sky Pez have 1400 meter range launchers, so that is at least enough range if they can get line of sight. But Woods cuts line of sight, so it's a really difficult engagement, and I feel like holding these woods is pretty critical if you really want to attack in and stop reinforcing bridgeheads, because it's so easy for the Blue 14 to bring stuff up there. So, as I said, the Cobra's causing problems. We did get some of the riflemen down, but I'm losing things left and right here. We're going to have to bring up reinforcements, and Iroquois are the first of these, but not the only ones. Neva SC was also called in to fend off those F-111Cs, honestly, because I mean, it's a really powerful anti-air missile, and we couldn't really afford to take that pounding the whole game. So, Mi-17 getting a little bit hog wild, but if I can get some of those diggers, that could be pretty well worth it. We've already fired one of our rocket pod volleys, but unfortunately a little too much here to really be happy with firing the second, and my attention was not over there. My attention's over here now. I want the Ranico up and around. I don't want them fighting those, I mean, just the amount of fire support vehicles was pretty impressive and very well done. But, so nobody's capped it yet, and that certainly is something I'm thinking about changing. I'm also carrying in a couple of charioteers, and the idea is you don't need a lot of punch at really short range to get decent damage against decent armor, because of the way kinetic scaling works. So enough charioteers could provide good fire support with just enough armor to stand up to things like infantry weapons. So, on this side, I think we've been having some pretty good success. More Proletary, OTAB 71s, a little bit of a cheaper hold, but there are reinforcements coming in this way as well. And finally, these M84ANs are getting on the move, enough to be able to spot an Oslav C. Pretty common command vehicle placement, honestly. It's sort of weird. People want to avoid being predictable, and so nobody wants to put stuff in here because they think it's too predictable. It's the back corner. Don't put stuff in the back corner. It's the first place people will look. As a result, pretty much everyone I've played against in this map on the blue 4 side of the field puts it right there. So, should I expect that now? Should I artillery that first now? If everyone starts doing that, will people put it back in the corner? Like, I guess this is the way metas change and work and all of that. It just seems a little bit strange. Not really what I expected. So, all of that is well and good. F-111C is coming in, and we have a ROM, we have a Neva, we have even more support over on the right-hand side as well, and he's not going to get away scot-free that time. The bombs, I think, were dropped, but I don't see them. Maybe not. We might have gotten them before he was able to drop. Very nice. Here comes a Sea Harrier, and yeah, unfortunately I lose a ROM, but frankly probably worth it if we can get the Sea Harrier especially, and there is another missile on the way. Taking down that plane? No. Oh, well. You never get the hit that you want when you want it, and this was a nice move from Marsupial. So Rover Wombats exploiting that gap here, trying to force their way into our backline, because there were mortars firing for quite a while, and now those mortars are gone because, frankly, Rover Wombats are kind of insane. 1925 meter range, I believe the highest range of any 10-point recoilless rifle vehicle in the entire game, and they fire heat rounds, so that 14 AP is guaranteed to do at least something. And particularly against unarmored targets, it's very, very brutal stuff. Super Puma's intercepting, but it's not enough, so I've retasked the Charioteers, but even they will struggle a little bit. We have relatively low rate of fire, 8 compared to the Rover Wombat 7. They have more numbers. 5 frontal armor isn't enough to really survive a heck of a lot of hits. And without the helicopter support from both Fierce and Santa, this could have turned into a real blow-through with just 60-point investment. So that goes to show, do the unexpected. It can work out really, really well for you. So, Yekri fighting with Royal Marines. I don't love this fight on its own, but 2 of them versus a single Royal Marines could still be cost effective. 20 points to Yekri 90, 30 points of Royal Marines. I should have probably split them and made sure that the second unit was getting up and in, but frankly we were doing well enough in there that I thought, okay, those Royal Marines will probably be handled without too much trouble. In the meantime, more Royal Marines, so it looks like the Staffman helping out his ally, Shrimp Champion over here in the center. But Ranico and a Salamandra were able to get some nice shots on. I really wanted that M11P Abrams, but unfortunately an Avenger is going to be ending some of my ambitions to that end. So it's like, I don't know, we were able to get out, but it was pretty close, and I lost my Ranico. So it was a trade. It was a trade I would potentially even do again. But this is why I wanted those charioteers up this way, and instead they had to be retasked. They're going to take forever to get there now. I have some musty trucks coming in along with a KT, but I'm definitely not really happy about how the center is going, even though the focus on the sides has allowed us to get Elena, and this is a pretty comfortable hold. It's probably why Marsupial was starting to do other stuff, and it's probably why we have this movement in the center as well, is to try and get a blow through that, I don't know, what's the better way to explain this? So, from what I've seen in Conquest games, and you guys, you know me by now, I love these sorts of 3v3, 4v4 Conquest games. They're just a lot of fun, a lot of crazy stuff happens, it's a nice laid-back sort of entertaining game. Generally, when someone gets something like Elena entirely capped, what I would expect as the other team is that their stuff is now going to be double teaming or triple teaming in other places. So the gamble is, okay, if I've gotten a good engagement here, I can hold you, while helping push through in another location, which then turns into another hold, which then turns into another hold, and that turns into a lost game. So the pushback in the center is probably an attempt to prevent that, and it's a pretty successful one. The M728 CEVs munched right through my infantry. I had very little still here. Raskazin Korima, Erekois Yekri on the sides, and a couple of charioteers arriving way later than they should to support a Copa that was called out back when Gregory was much more comfortable of a position. But with Michael still in enemy hands, this was sort of, I don't know, I thought capping, would be a good idea there. And we are starting to support as well with a Rock 91 and an Ondava. And the Blue 4 team hasn't capped it yet, but they probably will soon. And so all of this was supposed to stun and damage anything in these woods, going after tanks for the stun and then infantry for the damage. That was sort of the idea, to allow charioteers and the Raskazin Korima to finish them off, because they are much better at finishing things off than they are at getting them started. So, Proletarian 90 moving through from Santa, and his pressure here was amazing, couldn't have come at a better time either. My Pion leading the way a little bit, and I think these heavy tanks still in the back, trying to stay safe from the Staffman's position, and my Pion has no such compunctions. I had him over here, and I was sitting there going, okay, well, I'm getting pushed in Gregory, we need to pull attention somewhere else. So if my Pion's leading the way, then it'll let them find threats. It still is a decent recon tank, and it might be able to allow us to decap Michael, and potentially even cap Michael ourselves, to get back to that +1 ticking. That is exactly what you want to have for most of the game, if you can manage it. Super Puma's pushing up for the same reason, just to apply pressure in other places to pull people's attention, that's all it is. By the way, nice use of the M728 CEVs on the left-hand side, actually stunning a Pion, which was completely unexpected for me, but Brdskaya Pez will be there to fend them off. So, Lynx H702 getting a little up close and personal here in Proletarian 90. This is the thing, shock infantry and elite infantry can absolutely devastate helicopters if they can get, particularly their tertiaries, online, and you have to be mindful of that as somebody using those expensive helicopters up so close, because rocket pod helos can do amazing work, but they can also be an expensive waste of time. So, charioteers pushing up, and the Raskazin Korima firing line is making me very happy, but my Copa had his gun still on, so a bit of a micro mistake on my end. I'm going to be pulling back, we're getting artillery here, they definitely know exactly where my command vehicle is, and I'm trying to get some other work done around the side, but Iroquois versus SMA is not a good engagement for the Iroquois. SMA, of course, have a wonderful rate of fire, and I'm trying my best to take them out, but it is a tough fight indeed. But Raskazin Korima are screening out the Canadian Airborne pretty well, so this is what I like about these guys. 2 HE doesn't sound like a lot, but it's the range that you're paying for. It's the range and the 16 AP punch, so they're capable against multiple types of targets. In the meantime, M3A1, 60-point Bradley is going to be engaged by some spike teams and taken out, and that at least has told my opponent, hey, this ridge is still mine. these woods are still mine. Come over here at your own peril. But a nice response from Royal Marines 90, and the Lynxes are now staying a little bit farther back. I would have liked to see a bit more points on the ground from the Staffman in order to hold Michael a bit better. But if it's working for him, it's working for him, and I mean, who am I to judge? So, CC moving forward, Eric was Yekri thinking about it, and I wanted to get the Spike team forward as well, but I was really cautious about losing him, because as he is right here, if I lose my CC and these rovers push forward, my Spike team is my line of defense. Not a robust one, but it's more than nothing. In the meantime, KT is coming up, and the Blue 4 team has finally capped Gregory, which now means that we really need pressure in here, and we need to be able to get a counter cap. I mean, they're probably just moving it a little bit. Yep, there it is. Caps back in. Raniko Yekri, and the fact that they moved it when my Raniko Yekri were spotted sort of made me think it might be in these woods. I've put it up here before because this section of woods is pretty predictable and most people expect it, but then in order to go here you have to have infantry forward because Raniko Yekri enemy special forces can get up there quicker than you'd expect. So, Avia 28 bomber coming in, Raskas and Korima still screening things out, and that bomber was exactly what I needed, a little bit farther back than necessary to kill the infantry, but I was really trying to take out their support as well, so that's why it was not quite targeted at the edge of the woods. It was a bit more intentionally placed. So, Raniko are trying to shoot the gap, but that same Cobra is back there, and I kind of forgot about him at the time. We do manage it, but the fact that we were spotted is allowing the enemy HA Abrams to pull back, so he's not intending to lose that 140-point tank to something like a Raniko flanking around, and the Cobra coming up is pretty deadly, because if you can spot these guys, then those rocket pods, the Hydras, and FFARs can do their deadly work. He actually might be out of them, look at that. Just the M75, and it's more than enough. I mean, frag rounds are pretty good, and my smoke is not quite in the right position, so I was trying to fend off the visibility there from the Cobra, and just was not able to do it, so I don't know, kind of disappointing. I wasn't too happy with that, and my KTs were moved up in response in order to try and counterattack that Cobra's position, but I don't know, Bushmaster 2 is nice. It's just maybe a little bit overextended here. Still, if we can get it, I mean, that's definitely worthwhile, and he did drop down. I think he's resupplying. We caught him resupplying. Oof. Oof, oof. 55-point helicopter, 20-point KT, that at least was some revenge, but kind of short-lived revenge. So I'm learning my lesson. I'm widening the smoked field and moving the Raniko around, as Oslov PCs are trying to get through here again, and both of these Mi-35s have fended off so many little probes from Marsupial that they're actually out of their secondary and tertiary weapons, which is hilarious. It's definitely a problem, one that needs fixing soon, but I don't know. So, looking back at the battlefield right now, we're up nearly 300 points, and most of that's because of the cap and Elena. But the Blue 4 team is getting a little bit tricky, and we need pressure in Michael. We were talking about that in the chat at the time, and here it comes. The M84AN's ready to engage now, the Moderna ready to engage now. On 1 health, too, so this is a pretty risky engage. But that was the enemy CV right there, taken out by the M84AN, able to see into those woods, enough to spot a vehicle, if not anything else, or much more than that. Mi-8 KT responding. Unfortunately, we lost the other helicopters, which probably didn't occur to my allies, and wouldn't have occurred to me either, because you're sitting there going, oh, there's no way they can get through that. You don't realize it's out of ammunition at the time. So, we also intercept a couple of Commandos 90, just briefly with those rocket pods, and Marsupial is definitely making good use of the ridge around the side of Elena, so it's a nice way to attack that. But with Michael lost now, well, I guess gained from our perspective, to Santa here, the Staffman does surrender, and we should be able to cap this. Akopa's already on his way, and I know this is deflating my forces in Gregory, but it seemed like a nice thing to do. If we can get Elena and Michael, the two sides, take it a +2, and then combine arms, push back into Gregory, and sort of try to end the game with that. That was my intention there, and I thought the Rescues in Korima could hold. I do have more reinforcements up there already in KTs, and danger close, Avia coming in, Commandos 90 spotted 3 of them. Probably would have been taken out here even without the Avia, but I didn't know that at the time, and I like Avias, so there you go. Avias are fun. The Hawk is probably better, but well, cost effectiveness probably better, but so there's something about those huge bombs that's just very satisfying. So more smoke coming in, and I'm getting some Raniko Yekri and Standard Yekri up into this section of woods. I still have in my head that they got demolished last time by the CEVs, and I don't want that to happen again. But the Raniko have ample losses that will be able to pen that armor, and my hope is to be able to screen things out and do exactly this. So we spot the HA Abrams, we spot the CS support weapon, I guess, and we're able to get some nice shots in on the HA Abrams, take him out. 140 points right there. Basically pays for most of this push on its own. And then try to get into the woods on this side, and that's a Command Abrams, ladies and gentlemen. That is 160 points worth of sadness if we can take it out. It's just a matter of if we can take it out, and I'm not entirely sure. So I had a Rock 91 back here, my ally has an Ondava, and I think the Ondava was immediately retasked, plus we had a couple of bombers, so the Avia 28 coming out, and attempting to get that big bomb in should be enough to take out a damaged Command Abrams. They don't have the best armor or top armor, and, I mean, there's a lot of HE coming in off this bomb, so I think it's, what, 24? Yeah. So, meanwhile, Santa has moved over. He's helping me out a little bit. This is the Staffman's tank, but it's currently controlled, I believe, by the Shrimp Champion, as he's just attempting to help out his teammate there. But Specialny and Jednotki are very, very effective, and my bomb was not quite able to take out that command vehicle, or at least, I don't think it was, because I have a Copa over here, and... is he dead? Yeah, actually that was it, right there, look. Command Abrams, caught in the glare, beautiful, beautiful shot there from my allies on Dava. Very nice. Very, very nice. Kind of surprised that that got the last hit, and a little disappointed in the Avia for it. It only had to do, I think, 4 or 5 points of damage in order to get that kill, and it wasn't quite able to, which it does raise some questions, I guess. Maybe not that many, but certainly some. And this is sort of the last gasp of the Blue 4 resistance in Gregory, as we didn't really need as many points here to push back as I thought. So I'm not sure if we just got better engagements previously, but with that and with an OTAP 71 getting in, and I mean, if he hadn't been stunned, that would have been a beautiful kill here. And I mean, yeah, panicked, but never underestimate the kinetic value on these KVTPs or KPTVs. KPV. I'm not dyslexic, I promise. That's going to prompt a surrender from Shrimp Champion here, and then shortly one from Marsupial as well. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.